General of Police, Mr. Fred Ekokotu. The university appreciates your presence here, and the Vice Chancellor sends his greetings. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to the 407th inaugural lecture of this prestigious university. May I ask, with due respect, that all of us here, every living soul here, please stand and remain standing for the Vice Chancellor's procession. Thank you. Please stand and remain standing for the Vice Chancellor's procession. The procession, please. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. Kayode Egbedukun, ably represented by the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Mr. Fred Ekokotu. The Vice Chancellor sends his greetings to you, and we say welcome to the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University Life.
Thank you very much. Kindly be seated, please. I want to welcome everyone to this lecture, and we are happy to have the IG here, ably represented by the AIG. You are welcome. You are all welcome to the 407th inaugural lecture series of Obafemi Awolowo University, titled MIGRALUTIon, a mixed transnational theory of Japa culture, to be delivered by Professor Adebusuyi Isaac Adeniran. Professor Adebusuyi Isaac Adeniran holds a PhD in Sociology from the University of Ibadan. He had this in 2012, specializing in migration research, and a certificate in research methods from the University of Oxford in 2014. He had his pre-doctoral research at York University, Canada, and his postdoctoral fellowship at the Nordic African Institute, Sweden, in 2015. Professor Adeniran joined the services of Obafemi Awolowo University as a graduate assistant on September 11, 2007, and rose to the position of a professor on October 1, 2021. He has served the university in various capacities, was the immediate past head of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, 2022 to 2025. He was the convener of the first African International Conference on Transnational Organized Crimes at OAU in 2023. Professor Adeniran has received nearly 80 academic research grants and awards of recognition across the world from 2007 to 2025. Amongst the granting institutions are University of Oxford, UK, Open University, UK, University of Pittsburgh, USA, York University, Canada, University of Oldenburg, Germany, Codestra, Senegal, South African Institute of International Affairs, International Sociological Association, Spain, and amongst others. He is an external reviewer for South African NRF Research Chairs Initiative. He is a member of the editorial advisory board of Cambridge Scholars Publishing UK and the co-editor of African Review of Migration and Environment. He has attended and organized more than 110 distinguished academic fora in Africa, Asia, Europe, North and South America between 2005 and 2025. He has more than 100 publications to reputable global outlets. Professor Adeniran is the current chair of the National Technical Committee on Human Trafficking in Nigeria and the National Research Consultant for the UN on Migration and Anti-Corruption in Nigeria. Professor Adebusuyi Isaac Adeniran is happily married with children. I hereby have the single honor of presenting him to present his inaugural lecture. Please.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, Principal's Officer of the University, distinguished members of the University Council, members of the University Senate, provost, deans, directors, heads of departments, eminent colleagues, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, standing before you this day, Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, to deliver the 407th inaugural lecture of this great citadel of learning, Obafemi Awolowo University, is an outright making of God the Almighty, who does only good and wondrous things, a reference of which I am. This marks the 9th inaugural lecture from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology since its establishment in 1963. The 8th, which was the last, was delivered by amiable Professor Mabayoje Anthony Aluko on February 27, 2018. More than any other consideration, this inaugural lecture, entitled MIGRALUTION, a MIX-TRANSNATIONAL theory of Japa culture, is to celebrate the faithfulness and the goodness of God Almighty in my life. As a human being, whenever I thought the road had closed, He has always made a way, despite my imperfections. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, kindly permit me to present a synopsis of my background, motivation for choice of discipline, profession, and of course, this inaugural topic. I was born in Ilesha in the then Oyo State on February 27, 1974, to late Pa Adeniran Ogedengbe and Princess Agbeke Adepatebi Adeniran. I was a great-grandson of the renowned Yoruba warrior, late Ogedengbe Agbogungboro of Ilesha, and a grandson of the renowned indigenous entrepreneur, late Lodja Timothy Adewale, the Lodja of Odo Ijesha, who was among the first set of entrepreneurs to ever establish sawmilling factories in the then British colonial Nigeria in the 1930s. Indeed, the intricacies of my background would have suggested that I would grow up to become a businessman. However, thanks to my maternal grandmother, late Princess Mary Ige Adewale ni Adebusuyi of Gefungeri, whom I spent most of my formative years with, as well as my late mother, whose visit to the University of Ibadan in the 1960s and our contact with the former Nigerian president at the 1981 convocation ceremony of the University of Ilorin, where my elder sister, Mrs. Eunice Oladuni Jegede, was a graduate, did engender our love for education, though my mother couldn't receive formal education despite her privileged background. Nicknaming me Professor at age 9 by the wife of my late brother, late Mrs. Olufumilayo Fagbamila ni Adewolu, was undoubtedly divine because thereafter I started behaving to the tithe, even when nothing looked professorial within a family setting as of then. My first visit to a university in 1984, University of Ilorin, equally enlivened my professorial aspiration. Professors with white ears were greatly fascinating and attractive to me. I then wished one day I will have such as well. It is expedient to thank my lovely wife, Tolu, and our wonderful children, Otne, Elwood, Adasa, and Zurie, for being great companions and supporters all along the journey. God bless you all. Migration at conception. Over time and space, migration has evolved to synonymize human existence. As recorded in Genesis 12:1, the clear call of God Almighty to Abraham was, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to a land that I will show you. This command signaled the outset of the Abrahamic covenant, where God promises to bless Abraham and make him a great nation, which he actually did. All of the events that follow this development in the book of Exodus nearly indicate that the Lord has not designed human beings to be stationary, rather as migrants. Probing to the conceptual significance of human migration and its existential imperativeness may be helpful in presenting a veritable framework to better manage its contemporary vestiges, at least for the good of all. Migration does not only provide a framework for displaying diversities of existence, but possesses the capacities for balancing human development evenly across various global regions via unrestricted cross-border and transnational flow of developmental ideas and initiatives. Evolution of migration in Nigeria, as noted by Adebusuyi Adeniran 2020 and Adebusuyi Adeniran, Umena Bondareko, Shumitua, and Santos 2025. In-depth exploration of prevalent procedures for interpersonal interaction across the length and breadth of pre-modern African society has been indicative of a pattern of inherent culture of migration across time and space. Despite ostensible colonial and post-colonial impediments to cross-border interactions, for instance, distance, imposed colonial languages, uncommon colonial experiences, and multiple monetary zoning, the migration and mobility of Africans have kept bolstering across histories. Olutayo and Adebusuyi Adeniran 2013. As noted by Adebusuyi Adeniran 2009 and 2012, while the total number of migrants of Nigerian origin in Côte d'Ivoire as of 1930, especially the Ejigbo Yoruba, was estimated at 500, by 2006, the number had grown to over 1.2 million, of which the Yoruba accounted for more than 90%. The population census held in Nigeria in 2006 revealed that the Ejigbo community in Nigeria had a total of 132,642 inhabitants. Impliedly, well over 80% of the entire Ejigbo Yoruba population was resident in Côte d'Ivoire as of 2006. Offer of citizenship to West African migrants by late Ivorian President Félix Houphouët-Boigny in early 1960 and promotion of cross-cultural marriage were particularly helpful to the budding migratory pathway. Trends and patterns of migration in Nigeria. In terms of migratory abilities, all regions and ethnic groups in Nigeria have been visibly active across history. However, in measure of trends and dynamics, there have been apparent variations. While most migrants from northern Nigeria have been associated with internal mobility, a considerable volume of migrants of southern Nigerian origin has been involved in both internal and transnational mobilities. Determining the actual number of Nigerians who have emigrated from the country in recent past has been somewhat Herculean due to obvious situational factors. For example, routine preference for irregular migratory pathways. However, of the officially captured combined unemployment rate and time-related underemployment rate of 15.3%, that is 30.6 million Nigerians, according to the Nigerian Labor Force Statistics Report, Q1 2024, no less than 15%, that is 4.5 million Nigerians, had emigrated from the country as of 2024. Career trajectory as academic and research consultant. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, as a student at Ilesha Grammar School, Ilesha, 1985 to 1991, my plan was to study accountancy. However, my foray into the field of social development research was purely a divine arrangement. Whereas I was initially somewhat oblivious of what it entailed. An innate attribute of mine, budding inquisitiveness, had been a subtle impetus in this regard. I had always wanted to know everything about life, which is actually the basis of every sociological inquisition. In fact, by age 10, I had completed studying and mastering the map of the entire world on my own volition, basically deciphering the reality of human interrelatedness. Intuitively, it was of my concise aspiration to lay my foot on everywhere on earth at such tender age. And by 2004, when I celebrated my golden jubilee birthday, I had been privileged to lay my foot on every continent, save for the Antarctica, and on more than 70 countries, either as a visitor, a worker, a researcher, or as a resident. No doubt, there is nothing that God cannot do. Luke 1:37. Meanwhile, during my undergraduate days at the then Ondo State University, Ado-Ekiti, 1995 to 1999, there was hardly any topic we were taught that a good number of my classmates would not bring to me for further explanations. I think this hugely spurred my academic desire. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my career in the academia formally commenced with my admission into the MSc degree program in Sociology at University of Lagos in 2004, where I was simultaneously engaged as a teaching and graduate assistant up to 2007. Much appreciation to Professor Iyolaoni, who facilitated my admission, and to Professor Felicia Oyekami, my then HOD. By 2007, I had to migrate from UNILAG, today's great university, with my employment as a graduate assistant in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, where I rose through the ranks to be pronounced a full professor in 2021. Thanks to our indefatigable VC, Professor Adebusuyi, for prioritizing timeless promotion of Ulster. At this point, it will be apt to express my profound appreciation to Professor Muyiwa Omobowale, who called my attention to the open position at OAU and did encourage me to apply while we were together at UNILAG. It is equally worthy of mentioning that Professor Molulusho Yombo did show me the way of research while in UNILAG, and the way of migration research was jointly shown to me at UI by Professor Larry Olutayo, my amiable PhD supervisor, who is also here today, and Professor Omobowale, my benefactor. My doctoral sojourn at UI 2008 to 2012 was a watershed in my career trajectory. It offered me my first real international academic and research experience at York University, Canada, from 2011 to 2012, with a predoctoral grant from the Center for International Governance Innovation, Waterloo, Canada. Altogether, my doctoral thesis did facilitate more than 60 global recognitions for me in forms of research grants, awards, scholarships, and fellowships within the first 5 years of its completion. Indeed, our God does only good and wondrous things. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the period of my postdoctoral research at the Nordic African Institute, Uppsala, Sweden, in 2015 was a remarkable point in my career trajectory. To my amazement, upon assumption of duties, I discovered my first solely authored book, Migration and Regional Integration in West Africa, a Borderless ECOWAS, engraved in the Institute's library. It was indeed a great moment of reassurance that I was actually on the right career path. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, by 2018, my research and writings have given me a noticeable measure of visibility nationally, regionally, and internationally, with consultations for Atlas Network, ICPC, British Council, CRCM, DFID, ECOWAS, UNDP, UNODC, World Bank, and so on. I have served as a Nigerian delegate to copious international fora, like the UN-backed Global Forum on Migration and Development in Athens, Greece in 2008, and the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, Smuggling of Migrants Protocol in Vienna, Austria in 2023. I currently lead the UN-backed National Technical Committee on Human Trafficking Research and Reporting for the country for 2025. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, aside from presenting my key undertakings, research undertakings, achievements, impacts, and recognitions within and beyond the university system, for more than 2 decades, in this lecture, I shall lay bare the direction that my research plans will be taking from now on. Theory and research in sociological inquiry, in empirical, exploratory, and integrated designs. Both theory and research are the 2 legs that support all inquisitions in the social world. Indeed, related procedures are tenable in theorizing and researching aspects of human mobilities over time and space. Conceptualizing migration. The notion of migration has been my personal construct using 2 pre-existing concepts, migration and illusion. While migration indicates the movement of individuals from one distinctly defined geographical location to another on either short-term or long-term basis. Illusion implies an act or a process that deceives by producing a false or a misleading impression of actual reality. Therefore, migration in this respect focuses on espousing the unrealities of related utopian assumptions, especially in relation to escalating south-north mobilities, which in most cases constructed upon unviable foundation. No doubt the fact that migration could be understood within the context of positive developmental assumptions, the capacity to spur monetary and non-monetary remittances, skill transfer, and of course, foreign direct investment, FDI. However, processes underlying the migration of Nigerians to other parts of the world, especially since the outset of the 21st century, call for in-depth interrogation. Ostensible overzealousness usually leads to irregular migratory pathways. Even when regular frameworks are engaged in making a move, the need for integration into the socio-cultural specificities of the host societies routinely take the migrant to the realm of migration. Incomplete integration, as seen in recent racism claim by the opposition conservative leader in the United Kingdom, Ms. Kemi Badenoch, presents an apt reference here. Migration as a MIX-TRANSNATIONAL theory. As a theory of migration, migration has been constructed as a MIX-TRANSNATIONAL framework to the extent that it possesses the capacity to enable admins of both positive and negative outcomes for the migrants, for the releasing societies, and for the receiving societies. Assumptions of migration. 1. Migration has both negative and positive outcomes, irrespective of the procedures engaged in making the move. 2. African migration is more regional than transcontinental. As noted in the UNDP report 2020, 75% of migration of Africans commences and terminates within Africa. 3. African migration is largely unstructured in outlook and in practice, with modern-day borders rarely recognized. 4. African migration is principally driven by elusive utopian expectations. 5. Migration is usually unproductive when approached from the point of weakness. For example, utilizing irregular pathways. And 6. Stifled regular migratory pathways makes irregular mobility attractive. For example, the planned $15,000 visa bond by Donald Trump regime will be counterproductive. Japa in the context of migration. The scope of unreality that informs the practice of or the culture of Japa basically unfolds within the realm of migration. Hence, Japa is deemed a strand or a reflection of migration. While Japa may not necessarily imply an entirely new phenomenon, its subtle intent and eventual outcomes in present-day Nigeria calls for more robust contextualization. Indeed, such have been particularly unhelpful to the cause of individual and group level existential sustainability. For example, what would be the socio-psychological import of the experiences of individuals who sold all of their belongings to make the move and yet unable to move? Or who moved and gained economic advantage at points of destinations but poorly integrated into the socio-cultural specificities of same old societies? To whose advantage or disadvantage are the professionals trained with Nigerian resources and Japa without any kind of restitution to the country? Perhaps some forms of regulation may be desirable in this respect, at least to give some respite to various institutions that train some of these Japa-prone Nigerians, especially in terms of financial returns. As of 2025, it cost £46,700, that is approximately 100 million naira, to be a registered first-year international medical student in the UK, according to Brighton and Sussex Medical School 2025. Whereas, same training is offered by OAU at nearly no cost, and its products are taken away practically free of charges. It is high time that migration governance is reinterrogated in the country. The problem with contemporary migration in Nigeria, while the interventions of such international agencies like UNDP, UNODC, and IOM in enabling efficient migration management in Nigeria have been worthwhile, the major challenges have subsisted in two folds: apparent institutionalized contradictions at the level of national policy advancement and implementation, and utopian connotation of existential reality in the countries of Europe and North America by teeming young Africans who have had no previous travel experiences to such places. Trafficking in persons in Nigeria. Women and children have been particularly vulnerable to human trafficking in Nigeria, especially for sexual exploitation, forced labor, domestic servitude, arms begging, drug trade, child labor, forced marriage, organ harvesting, and so forth. It is estimated that about 750,000 to 1 million persons are trafficked annually in Nigeria, with over 75% of them trafficked across the state, 23% trafficked within the state, and 2% trafficked outside the country, according to the U.S. Department of State Report 2023. An astonishing development in human trafficking trend in Nigeria is the case of baby factory, where girls and women are purposely recruited to bear pregnancies whose babies are eventually sold like commodities, that is, baby selling. Such were tracked in a national study I coordinated on behalf of the United Nations in 2022, where families agreed in some cases to sell their younger members to fund ceremonies. Smuggling of migrants in Nigeria. Most Nigerians who are smuggled are men, though Nigerian women, girls, and boys are also smuggled in smaller numbers. Smuggled Nigerians are usually 16 to 35 years old, though there is evidence of Nigerians as young as 8 and as old as 63 being smuggled, according to UNODC SOM Observatory Report 2022. As reported by IOM in 2025, 2024 has remained the deadliest year on record for migrants across most regions in the world, including 2,242 deaths recorded for African migrants in the Mediterranean Sea in 2024. Though not the largest annual total ever for African migrants, such huge number indicates the need to promote safer and regular migratory pathways. Meanwhile, obnoxious validated statements like "all die na die," anything, anywhere but Nigeria, has been advanced by a section of prospective Nigerian migrants seem unhelpful in mitigating the tide of irregular mobilities in the country. Media and technology in irregular migration. A good number of human traffickers and migrant smugglers operating in Nigeria often provide credence to their nefarious activities using both traditional and new media to promote fake online job vacancies and admissions overseas. A good reference here is recent fictitious Alabuga Start program in Russia in 2025. Conflict displacement, and irregular migration. A major stimulator of irregular migrations in Nigeria has been persistency of human displacement due to various conflicts across the country, particularly violent insurrection of the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast. Utopianism in irregular migration. Theoretical construction of overseas as perfect societies, where a good life is easily accessible, irrespective of an individual's educational and or economic attainment, has been quite unhelpful to the path of positive migration. Migration and corruption in Nigeria. Desperation enables the vulnerability of prospective Nigerian migrants to undue exploitation by both official and non-official actors. A transnational investigation along the Nigerian corridor, which I coordinated on behalf of the UN in 2021, did buttress this point. Migration management strategies, global, regional, sub-regional, and national reflection. A replica of how migration should be better managed could be seen in the operations of the ECOWAS and other international agencies in relation to the attainment of SDG 10, that is, reduced inequalities. At this point, I would like to specially thank the immediate past country representative of UNODC in Nigeria, Dr. Oliver Stope, his deputies, Ms. Elizabeth Bayer, Princess Esma, and the current country representative of UNODC in Nigeria, Sekturi, and Ms. Aisha Brahma, for their efforts in enabling safer migration and corruption-free Nigeria. Nigeria Immigration Service. Unfortunately, the constitutionally assigned tasks of the NIS, that is, border security and migration management, and what it actually does, have been irreconcilable over time and space. NIS's usefulness transcends mere capturing of data on inflow of migrants into the country, that is, immigration. It equally handles immigration, border security, passport control and issuance, intelligence, consular service, prosecution, and so forth. The name NIS has not in any way reflected global best practices because it limitedly suggests only one of its multiple responsibilities, that is, immigration. It does more than this. The time is so auspicious to change NIS to either of these: Nigerian Migration and Border Service, NMBS, or Nigerian Migration and Border Security, NMBS. Other migration-connected agencies, policies, and programs in Nigeria should be adequately infused to the workings of a rebranded NIS for greater efficiency. The politics of global migration. Though the urge for economic growth has remained an imperative for mostly developed countries of the West, yet their average population growth rate has consistently been less than 1. This is why African demographic dividend has been on high demand to support respective economic production, particularly in Europe and North America, according to Adebusuyi Adeniran 2020. Interestingly, migrants of African descent are often projected as societal bodies within the frameworks of socio-economic engagement in these countries, despite their productive, supportive roles. Migration as a weapon of subjugation and global dominance. The subsisting trend of South-North migratory preference has continued to reflect a sort of neo-colonial scenario wherein the colonizers do not have to come here to get the work done any longer, but they will be colonial subjects, struggle all through to become subjugated. Meanwhile, most of the stimulators of irregular migrations from Africa, including Nigeria, intergroup conflict, corruption, and poor economic policies, are traceable to the inordinate exploitative interest of the savior global powers in most cases. There has been no other realm where this crisis has been well depicted more than the increasing number of Nigerians seeking asylum in Europe in particular, in recent past. With modern day utilization of migration as a global political and diplomatic tool of engagement, a more pragmatic approach to migration management in Nigeria has become expedient. Is Donald Trump ultimately correct? It is indubitable that President Donald Trump of USA's approach to migration matter is manifestly archaic and unprofessional. However, what is his latent message to us? Go and sit down and make your countries great. Don't we want to do this? We have to, because no one will ever do this for us. The Indian and Chinese diaspora have done this. Diaspora skill transfer may just be central to making Africa great again. Stop an wholesome dream of transnationalism and essentially mitigate the tide of irregular migrations to other parts of the world. The Western world is aware of unquestionable desire of the middle class and the upper class, including the political class in Nigeria, for emigration of their children and other dependents to the West, particularly through the frameworks of foreign studies, now attracting untoward attention of the far-right parties and politicians in the West. Though individual level progress seems manifested, the collective good has continued to steadily retrogress in the country. Of course, application of principle of reciprocity has been contemplated by the Nigerian government in responding to the reduction of visitor visas validity for Nigerians to maximum of 3 months by USA will ultimately be counterproductive. Positivity of global migration. Either approached regularly or irregularly, migration has the tendency to spur positive outcomes. For example, through remittances and skill transfer to the initial points of departure. It is not all about negativities. With a total of $20.98 billion, remittance inflow into the Nigerian economy in 2024, according to World Bank 2024, the contribution of such to household livelihood and national development have been manifestly significant. This represents 20% of the total remittances to Africa within the same period, that is $95 billion. Migration as industry, exploring the demographic dividend. Unlike largely unstructured migratory patterns prevalent in Africa, Nigeria inclusive, elsewhere, migration is managed as an industry and as essential asset directly contributing to the gross national product and the larger national developmental drive. South Asian countries like Sri Lanka and India, and Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia and the Philippines have continued to take advantage of inherent opportunities by making migration a win-win-win process. That is, accruable benefits traversing migrants' government destination trajectory. With its youthful population of below 25 years, presently estimated at 60% of the total population of 1.55 billion, and a projected rise of 180% by the turn of the century, Africa, Nigeria in particular, stands a good chance of becoming the powerhouse of the new black gold, that is, nascent demographic dividend, if well harnessed. While Africa's young population is projected to twice that of the entire Europe by the turn of the century, Europe and Asia's young population are expected to decrease by 21% and 28% respectively within the same period. How do we take advantage of this as a source of power and prosperity as a country and as a continent via efficient migratory pathways? Ilela Boisimioko, the context of changing migratory patterns. In spite of the fact that a good number of migrants of Nigerian origin often integrate into the socio-economic frameworks of their host, they have never disconnected from the socio-cultural specificities of their home, according to Adebusuyi Adeniran 2010 and 2012. Meanwhile, emerging migratory patterns in Nigeria post-COVID-19 era seem to be presenting a conceptual challenge in describing where is actually home and where is indeed away. Nigerians of 65 years of age and above are now joining the Japa train via a sort of chain migration, retiring overseas, which seems like an aberration. That is, Okolabo Isimile, overseas is a place of rest now. Notably, such changing migratory preferences cannot be dissociated from apparent stifling subsistence strategies in the country, as noted by Adebusuyi Adeniran et al. 2025. Is envisaged migration explosion a reality? Although the projected migration misfortune across all global regions in the course of the 21st century appears to be more of a realistic estimation. Yet, it seems to also possess the capability of making the global space a more equitable realm if its inherent strengths can be aptly appropriated. In most Western countries, for example, Austria, Italy, Germany, Sweden, and the UK, the native population has been shrinking for decades. Birth rates are falling steadily to the extent that each native generation is about 2/3 the size of the last. Nigeria has to take utmost advantage of this moving forward. The fusion of migration in and beyond Africa, with a population change rate of 2.1% and crude death rate of 1.2%, demographic transition in Nigeria has continued to have strong repercussions for the age structure of its total population. Except deliberate efforts are made to reconcile forms of education and training being offered with relevant manpower needs at home and away, thereby facilitating the entry of youth into economically active life. Prevalent migration crisis in Nigeria and in other parts of Africa are bound to worsen within the foreseeable future. Migration, either regional or trans-regional, regular or irregular, could be made to work across the board, rather than being perceived as a scourge to be stopped at all costs. The crucial issue should be how to better manage the ingrained processes for the benefits of all. Instead of being adjudged as a burden, migrants should be seen and evaluated as agents of development at both points of departure and arrival. Professional accomplishments, research contributions. My routine application of both explanatory and exploratory designs has facilitated a self-developed representational data collection strategy, RGCS, framework as a mixed method procedure for social investigation. I have received several academic and research awards and recognitions from notable academic research and research-based institutions across the world. These include University of Oxford, Open University, University of Pittsburgh, and so forth. Theoretical contributions. I have developed transnational simultaneity as a theoretical basis for understanding the implication of dual identity cleavage for different migrant groups within the West African sub-region. Contributions to the university. As the head of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology from 2022 to 2025, I simultaneously oversaw nurturing of 4 new programs of studies in communication and media studies. That is, mass communication, broadcast journalism, film production, information science, and media study to maturity. Under my watch, these programs of studies, in combination, did assume the status of one of the most sought after and highest admitting in the university as our 2023-2024 academic session, receiving nearly 70% of all newly admitted students in the Faculty of Social Sciences, that is, within 2 academic sessions of establishment. I convened the first African International Conference on Transnational Organized Crimes, AICTOC, in the university in June 2023. with participants from Africa, Europe, North and South America. The establishment of a passport processing office by the NIS at the university was hugely inspired by the conference in 2023. Many thanks to our VC, Professor Bamire, for seeing this through. I facilitated a research and a chain partnership with the School of Oriental and African Studies in the United Kingdom with a focus on anthropology in the university. I also facilitated a strategic partnership between MyCom Cable Limited and the university in February 2025. Big appreciation to the VC for seeing this through, sir. I've also served as the chair of the scientific committee for the Center for Gender and Social Policy Studies Biennial Conference in 2019 in the university. I've also served as the chair of the fundraising committee for the Faculty of Social Sciences and also student advisor undergraduate programs and coordinator of departmental postgraduate programs in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Contribution to national development. For nearly a decade, I have been privileged to chair and serve as a member of numerous national technical committees, NTC, and National Steering Committee, NSC, of various anti-corruption and migration-connected projects under the auspices of the federal government of Nigeria and the United Nations. Contribution to international development. I have served as the Nigerian delegate to various international engagements at different levels, ECOWAS, UN, International Science Council, and so forth. I also presently serve as the chief of policy for the Society for Peace Studies and Practice. I'm also an external expert for the Norwegian Institute for International Affairs, Norway, since 2015, and also an international expert for the Reading Committee of Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders, United States, since 2013. Publications, presentations, and publishing. I have published more than 100 peer-reviewed journal articles, books, book chapters, book reviews, and policy briefs with leading global publishers, 12 of which are authored books. I have made more than 120 research presentations in Africa, Asia, Europe, North and South America within the past 2 decades. I have served as an editor for William Blackwell since 2012. I have been an author for Palgrave Macmillan since 2012. I have been an author, editor, and research reviewer for Codestria since 2012. For more than a decade, I've been reviewed for numerous leading global journals. Contributions to global development of postgraduate studies. I have successfully supervised and co-supervised more than 30 MSc and PhD theses and dissertations within and beyond OAU. I have served as external examiner for more than 70 PhD theses and dissertations within and beyond the shores of Nigeria. I am the postgraduate research arbitrator at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, since 2020. I'm also a research chairs reviewer for the National Research Foundation, NRF, in South Africa. I'm also a postgraduate research reviewer for the National Research University, Russia. And during my headship of Sociology and Anthropology Department 2020 to 2025, I introduced virtual recruitment of postgraduate students into the department. Professorial promotion reviews. I have successfully undertaken 18 professorial reviews in other universities within and beyond Nigeria, such as University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, Lagos State University, University of KwaZulu-Natal, and University of Pretoria. Professional Association membership. I'm a member of International Sociological Association, Canadian Association on Gerontology, Codestria, American Sociological Association, Utopian Studies Society, Canadian Association of African Studies, Migration and Development in Africa Monitors, International Network on Migration and Development, Chinese in Africa, Africans in China Network, International Science Council, Global Land Program, and so forth. Recommendations. 1. There is urgent need to rebrand the Nigerian Immigration Service to reflect its true structure and responsibilities. as a matter of necessity, NI should be rebranded as the Nigerian Migration and Border Service, NMBS, or as the Nigerian Migration and Border Security, NMBS, for enhanced efficiency. 2, mainstreaming migration-related agencies into a rebranded NIS. As a coordinating migration agency in the country, the task of implementing the Nigerian migration policy should be solely vested in a rebranded NIS and not in NCFRMI. 3, cross-border and transnational migration should be transformed into an industry with the capacity of earnings from both cross-border and transnational migrations to contribute impactfully to the gross national income and gross domestic product of the country. Relevant industry-level regulations are crucial in migration management going forward. Mitigating spate of economic migration. What net migration rate, that is, number of immigrants minus number of emigrants per year divided by total population, indicates, determines extent of receptiveness of immigrants of all categories within most host societies. Why do we think different countries, for example, UK and UAE, keep changing their skilled immigrant work visa rules for Nigerians in particular? We oversupply even skilled laborers, though they are not enough back home. They are never given opportunity here. Why recent Nigerians must go campaign in Ghana? Why intermittent xenophobic attacks on Nigerian immigrants in South Africa? Because of economic considerations. Policies that will encourage Nigerians to realize their dreams in the country are imperative at this point. This is where the experts are needed. 5, establishment of migration clinics should be prioritized, stemming the tide of mostly irregular movement of migrants to, through, and from Nigeria. It is high time a kind of migration clinic is facilitated across all of the 774 GAs in the country, with basic tasks of mobility, enlightenment, counseling, and monitoring. NAPTIP should be the fulcrum for implementing this initiative because of its established advocacy capacity, though NIS and the National Orientation Agency can offer secondary support. Future research plans. 1, I plan to ensure that OAU become the fulcrum for contemporary migration research and discourse in Africa via the creation of a Center for Migration, Diaspora, and Humanitarian Studies in the university. 2, Observatory on Migration in Nigeria. It is of my concise intention to drive the establishment of the first institution-based observatory on migration in Nigeria in OAU, with basic goals of tracking imperative trends and patterns of human mobilities within and beyond Nigeria, using both virtual and physical resources. Appreciation and acknowledgement. All glory be to God Almighty for bringing me this far. Standing before you today, from total obscurity to absolute prominence, it can only be God Almighty. Many thanks to my parents, Pa and Princess Adeniran, my dearest wife, Tolu, and her children, Otne, Ehud, Adasa, and Azuria. You are highly appreciated. Great appreciation to the Imperial Majesty, Owa Oboko of Ijesha Land, Oba Adebusuyi Yasro, for his support and enviable leadership. Big thanks to all my teachers and colleagues from primary school to universities in Nigeria and overseas, to my pastor at the Also Chapel, OAU, Reverend Dr. Shegun Babalola and his family. Thank you very much. And all members of the church, members of the Men Christian Fellowship are particularly appreciated. I say big thanks to you. Much appreciation to the duo of Professor Olutayo and Professor Mobowale. Special appreciation to the trio of Emeritus Professor Pablo Idaosa, Emeritus Professor Paul Lovejoy, and Emeritus Professor Alan Simons, all of York University, for the roles they have played in my life. Big thanks to the indefatigable Inspector General of Police, Dr. Kayode Egbetokun, ably represented here by Assistant Inspector General of Police, Emobo Ekotutu, Director General of NATIP, ably represented by Mr. Bode Ogubiyi. Thank you, everyone. Big thanks to my research partners, Professor Santa Singh, Dr. Jeremy Jagannath, Professor Kebran Aristide, and much appreciation to the late Professor Ademola Babalola, who was the head of the department when I was employed in September 2007 as a graduate assistant. Thanks to all of my products from the university, especially Dr. Ijoma Kowia, my first PhD product. You have been exemplary. Mr. Nurani Yusuf, my current PhD student, I appreciate you. And Mr. Damilari Agbabiaka, my current MSc student, I appreciate you. And also, I'd like to use the opportunity to thank the immediate past VC of Al-Kiba University in Kwara State, Professor Noah Yusuf, who is here present. Thank you very much for always being there for me. And I also want to use the opportunity to thank my brothers, Ashiwaju, Dr. Afolabi, and Dr. Olumide Fagbamila, for the great job you have been doing, and Mr. Sheyi Jekede. I really appreciate you all. And to my childhood friend, Dr. Gidi Aogo, I thank you for your unquantifiable support. And to my all-time reliable PA and brother, Mr. Taiwo Akande, thank you for your utmost reliability. And to all here present today, I say a big thank you. I appreciate everyone. Ayọ̀ lẹ́fì padà délé o. Nǹkan ayọ̀ ní tán ní àárín wa o. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ o.
Certificate presentation time. Obafemiolo University, Ile-Ife, certificate of presentation of inaugural lecture. This satisfies that Adebusuyi Isaac Adeniran, a professor of migration and development sociology in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, Faculty of Social Sciences, Obafemiolo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria, delivered the 407th inaugural lecture titled MIGRALUTION, a mixed transnational theory of Japa culture, on October 14, 2025. Congratulations.
With the kind permission of the Vice Chancellor, may I humbly invite the wife to please come forward. The wife, please. No, the wife alone. Beside every successful man. Madam, you can go back, ma. Thank you.